classic.
Welcome to the breaking news edition of Every Day's Draft Day. I am your host, Eagle Dan FF. Joining me, as always, to talk some breaking news, it is Steffi Smalls. What's up, Steph?
What is up, Eagle Dan FF, my lovely co-host? We had a exhilarating day.
It was super exhilarating. We had no news, and then we had all the news within like 2 hours.
Yeah, it all happened very fast.
And it happens fast. So, in case you've been living under a rock the entire day, Russell Wilson has been traded to the Denver Broncos for a package that includes 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, Noah Fant, Drew Lock. What's the defensive lineman's name?
Look at us both. A
defensive lineman.
Yes.
And for Wilson in the 4th. There we go. Shelby Harris. That's what it is. Shelby Harris.
They and also got, yeah.
So 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a 2022 5th, Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, and Noah Fant for Russell Wilson and a 2022 4th round pick. Oh my God. Crazy. So let's break it down for each team. First, let's start with Denver. Obviously, Denver won this deal because whoever got the best player wins the deal. And they got the best player. They've been a quarterback away since Peyton Manning retired.
Yeah, they've been chasing this for quite some time. Like once Manning retired, they have been chasing having this veteran QB that they needed to make a real run for it. And last year was kind of frustrating, I think. I can imagine, at least for them, because everything was kind of there and then fell short at that QB role. I will say, though, I want to get your opinion on this. I think if Seattle wasn't such a trash drafter, I think you could make a stronger argument that Seattle didn't lose this trade. I think that they still have an opportunity to get someone else under center. I don't know that, everyone's acting like their option to find a different QB has been confiscated from them. That is not the case. Drew Lock has a very friendly contract, still from his rookie deal, I believe. So it's not like they can't go out and try to get either someone in free agency or even someone in the draft.
Yeah, that's true. Like you said, if they weren't such trash drafters, I would like to trade more. But, I mean, since 2011, they've drafted James Carpenter, Bruce Irvin, Jermaine Ifedi, Rashad Penny, L.J. Cooley, and Jordan Brooks.
It's so much worse than I remember, too. It's like everyone jokes around, they're bad at drafting. Like, no, they're quite literally horrible, especially the first round, man. Like, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. It's really gross, actually. So I think in the long run, Seattle was destined for a rebuild, whether they should have started that sooner than later. I think that they still made out, Seattle, they weren't going to be good next year. This was not a fluke year. Seattle, this was going to happen. The better choice was maybe to get rid of, Mr. Carroll over there. But again, I think that, I'd rather be going into a rebuild once you accept it with all these picks, but don't blow the picks.
Right. Yeah, the trade package in and of itself is a good deal. And it's probably the best deal you were going to get. Honestly, I mean, you got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 3 players. Drew Lock, we all know he isn't good, but Noah Fant is a really good player. Shelby Harris, while older, is a really good defensive. I mean, that's the best you can hope for Russell Wilson. It's not like, Russell Wilson is a 25-year-old quarterback either. He's going on 34. Not saying he doesn't have a couple of good years left. He does. But I think in terms of what Seattle got back, that's the best that they could have gotten, I think. Personally.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I know, again, like I said it a little bit earlier, like their option to pick up another quarterback has not just been like stolen from them, like taking like candy from a baby or whatever the phrase is. Like they can still address that position. That does not mean that Drew Lock is 100% their QB1. So I imagine that we see a lot of the emotion and the opinions and the theatrics that came from today maybe starting to temper down. Yes, is obviously Denver in the right now win this trade 100%. I mean, I think that the Rams totally have shifted things for how teams build their roster moving forward. But again, I think that if they're able to do something to at least make the QB position competitive, I think we might have a little bit different of a conversation. They also now have the draft capital to do it. They also have the draft capital that they want to take Malik Willis, they can go and take Malik Willis. So there's things to like about what they have. But again, you're talking about a rebuild. So it's time for everyone to accept Seattle is not one of these front runners anymore. And but they're at least in a good position right now.
Yeah. I mean, the door was closed pretty much. Excuse me. On the Russell Wilson, winning Super Bowl in Seattle type deal. The offensive line was never any good. They never, for some reason, they can never, fix that problem. He had great weapons, but it was never good enough.
I knew this was coming. You want to know when? Colt McCoy beat Seattle like what was it? I don't know, 11, 12, whatever it was, two seasons ago on the Giants. I knew that it was a dude that was like just lingering and they were just screwed. Like once Colt McCoy beats you on the New York Giants, you're done. Like you need to accept what it is, like that your team is going in a direction that is not as pretty as you would have hoped. And I can imagine Seattle fans are not super excited, but I think there's some things to still be a little optimistic about. I'd fire your whole scouting department and maybe start from scratch though, because if they do the draft, it's really bad. Actually, if you guys haven't looked at it in a while, it's almost like comical.
You heard it here first, everyone. Colt McCoy is the reason that Russell Wilson got traded today.
Yeah,
it's fault. But I mean, it's true. I mean, it was diminishing returns ever since the Legion of Boom, left that era. Like they never, rebuilt that defense into what it used to be. And they put a lot of it on Russ, and it wasn't that he wasn't good enough, but there just wasn't enough around him to get it done. I mean,
oh my gosh, they released Bobby Wagner too.
Did they? When? Just now?
Just quite literally right now.
Breaking news.
Breaking news on a show you're going to see tomorrow.
Wow, they couldn't trade him? They're going full rebuild then.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
Those have to be their two longest tenured players, right?
Yeah. Wagner was Legion of Boom era.
Oh my gosh. If I am players on Seattle, I can tell you I am not very excited.
If DK doesn't demand a trade in the next 3 hours, I'd be surprised. They're going full on just burning it down and starting over, honestly.
I kind of love it, to be honest. Kudos to them. Like, I wish the Giants had done this. I'm not even lying. Like, I legitimately I kind of like the aggressiveness. Let's just burn this shit to the ground. Like, just start from scratch. Like, I think a lot of teams could maybe learn. Maybe we're going to see that these are the two ways to do it. Either go out and get your guys in free agency, in whatever you want. That's maybe not necessarily the draft, and you get a lot of shit for it, like we saw the Rams. Or maybe, you just burn it to the ground and then you just start over like a phoenix in the dust or whatever, Harry Potter, that action, and just start over.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's pretty much where the league is going. I mean, you see it even in Denver themselves. You saw it when they had the team and then brought in Peyton, and he was the last piece, and they won. And they're doing it again with Russell. And you saw it with Brady in Tampa, where they had every piece but the quarterback, and you saw it with Stafford and the Rams.
It'll be crazy if the Broncos win the Super Bowl next year. Given Brady, Stafford, like now we're on to something.
Yeah. I mean, it seems that right now the way to win a Super Bowl is to build a team and then go trade for a quarterback, an older quarterback, and then just win it, honestly. But I think you're absolutely right. I think Seattle made a great move. It's a move that a lot of teams are scared to make, but they should, instead of being mired in mediocrity for 4 or 5 years. They're just going to, the era is over. We have this huge bundle of picks and stuff and flexibility now. and then rebuild. And then that's something like you said that the Giants should have done that. The Eagles should have done it a couple times, and more teams should do that because it's plainly obvious to anyone now if you don't have like that quarterback, you're not winning. So. So you need to give yourself more chances to get it, or need to build up your team enough to where a quarterback will want to come so you can win it.
Right. And then I think when you get the quarterback there, or you start fixing, I feel like this is what Joe Judge thought he was doing with culture, right? I think culture is important. I think there are teams that would benefit from fixing the culture, but that doesn't necessarily mean like, let's get all new guys in here, fix the culture by bringing in like it might be a little bit more than that. Maybe the league needs to value vets a little bit more, because I think that they've been undervalued, because we do see guys, yes, everyone's nervous about injuries or like nervous about this, but like at what cost? Because there are guys that we see that don't get injured, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see some guys like Brady. I know he's an alien at this rate, but there are guys that can play a little bit later than some of these younger guys. We're not talking about running backs. Like that's a whole nother conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, it is. I mean, you everyone likes the cheap rookies, but you have these veterans that come and aren't like breaking like the back of your cap, and they're going to help you win. You need them. It's exactly like in fantasy where everyone loves like the high profile like first, second round picks, but it's always the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round guys that end up helping you win the championship. You need them.
Right.
So I mean, it'll be interesting to see going forward how the rest of the league plays. Especially
it's just getting started. I'm so excited. I love the offseason. I hate the offseason on Twitter, but I thrive. Like today, I was having an absolute blast pacing in my apartment. I couldn't even keep myself still because everything was happening so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. But I'm interested to see like what everyone in the AFC does now, because basically have every good quarterback is in the AFC, specifically the AFC West. So like if you don't have like the Allens or the Wilsons or the Mahomes in the AFC, like what do you do now with your life? Like do you like what is Jacksonville like? What does the AFC South do? Like what do the Colts do? The Colts have a good team, but they don't have a quarterback, and without that, they're not going to beat anybody those other guys. So really interested to see what front offices do like going forward with how they plan their roster.
Oh, I love it. It's spicy.
All right, so let's get to the fantasy implications of the move. So for the Broncos, for quarterback, obviously Russell Wilson's going to be an awesome fantasy quarterback. He's been an awesome fantasy quarterback, and that is not going to change. In fact, he'll probably be even improved because he actually has an offensive line in front of him now. He doesn't have to run for his life every other play. Also, kudos for the Broncos for finally getting their quarterback, considering they've been trying, like you said, for years with the likes of Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch, Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, and Drew Lock, and others. So good for them. So I think I'm not downgrading Wilson at all for this move. I'll probably even upgrade him in terms of QB rank.
Yeah, I think I'm keeping him stagnant. I think that you can argue that he is getting a downgrade in weapons. I'm not going to have this conversation with everyone on Twitter. Like, regardless of what we've seen out of Judy and Sutton and Patrick, who I think people are not realizing is nearly as good as some of these other guys. But besides the point, like he had Metcalf and Lockett, so there's going to be a little bit of a downgrade there. But again, I think he probably is going to stay where I had him last year. I might move him up 1 or 2. He definitely doesn't move for me in Dynasty. He finished QB 16 last year.
Yeah.
14 games, averaging like almost 18 per game. So I think that's expected. Maybe he gets a little bump, but should at least be staying where you had him.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think I'm giving a little bump. I think that overall, from like a player-to-player comparison, DK and Tyler Lockett are probably better than Judy and Sutton. But I think it's like everyone after that's better for Wilson. Like you have like the Tim Patricks and the KJ Hamlers and Alberto's and that offensive line, and all that is better than what he had in Seattle. So I think for that reason, I'm going to give him a slight bump. Also to see what kind of system that Nathaniel Hackett comes up with now that he has.
We're so in sync. I was just thinking he does get an obvious upgrade in Nathaniel Hackett. We're going to start seeing a lot of these older coaches that have been around for a while start trending out. It's just not the trend anymore. It's a different league, a different type of offense. So he obviously gets a very nice upgrade in Nathaniel Hackett. So that definitely is a benefit for him. But I think overall, they bump him a little bit, but don't know that I'm throwing him into a top 5 fantasy.
No, I wouldn't go that far yet, but I think it's definitely up. It definitely isn't down at all.
Right.
So for the running backs, specifically Javonte Williams, because Melvin Gordon remains unsigned. So for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to assume he remains unsigned. So Javonte Williams now, I think, has a shot at being RB1. To be honest, I think with he never had that shot with any of the quarterbacks they used to have because everyone could just load the box because all the quarterbacks they had weren't that good. Now with Wilson and the RPO that Hackett's probably going to install, Wilson isn't as much of a running threat as he was earlier in his career, but he is still one. I think that only helps Williams. And he was already going to be really good, so this will only make him better.
Yeah. I don't think one thing is to keep in mind, Melvin Gordon and Russell Wilson have a very good relationship that I think is going to fly under the radar. So would it shock me if they keep Melvin Gordon? No, it would not shock me. With that being said, I don't think I'm ready to push Williams into a first round fantasy pick. But he's definitely making a very strong argument, obviously, to be maybe in that early to mid round, second round pick. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited about it. I think, it's good timing to introduce him as their lead back.
So you think if Gordon doesn't come back, you wouldn't put Williams in the first round?
I can't do it. I just am not quite there. And maybe I don't know what it is. I know that this is going to happen. I'm just not. This is hard for me because these two teams, I'll be honest, I don't know that I have a lot of these guys rostered in general. They're not necessarily the guys that I go after. So this is difficult for me to even totally talk about. I feel like a lot of these guys too, for a while, I couldn't trade them. I couldn't buy them. You couldn't do anything with a lot of these guys. There was nothing you could do. So am I taking him in the first round of a fantasy draft? No, I'm not. Am I taking him in the early second? Yeah, there's definitely a very good argument. But again, now we're turning into this zero RB type of play. So am I going to? Maybe not. I don't know.
Zero RB. But yeah, no, I think, it'll be interesting to see. I think if Melvin doesn't come back, I think just based on hype alone, he gets in the first round because that's how fantasy works. Everyone just on workload, everyone's gonna be like, oh my God, he has all the workload. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. So, but I mean, I see your point. I think that around that, back half of the first, early second is a better range for him until we see what the offense is going to look like.
Now that I'm thinking about it too, you think about guys that are going to get pulled out of that first round, is Zeke necessarily going to be there? Is Saquon going to be there? There's guys that I might take Williams over. Or the other way. Whatever.
That's another thing. A lot of the running backs that have been there for years are not going to be there coming next year. So yeah. All right. So for the receivers, we touched on it a little bit already. Judy, Sutton, Hamler. Where do you see them? Are you upgrading them at all in fantasy? Are you keeping them around where they were because they're already pretty good? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they get an obvious upgrade, right? It's still a pretty crowded room with that. Patrick and Hamler were not totally eliminated. Patrick still did pretty well. I think he finished, let's see, wide receiver 42, and you had Sutton wide receiver 44. Okay, so it wasn't a huge difference in their performance throughout the year. Judy is interesting. Judy is someone that I really like coming out of college. You would assume is the more natural deep ball talent. I preface that because I think that this trade probably benefits Sutton better if he can, pick up where he was prior to an ACL tear. I think I'm still low end wide receiver 2 as far as Judy goes. but I'm interested in that Seattle ranked first in NFL passer rating, passes more than 20 yards down the field, and the Broncos ranked like 21st, 20th, something like that. So this is very different than what they're going to get out of Wilson. I think I'm drafting them. I mean, I think they get a bigger bump for me than, someone like Williams does. I think Williams might have naturally drifted that way regardless. Whereas these guys, do we finally get to see what they can do, what their potential is with a true vet QB who's not just a true vet QB. Like they're getting one of the most accurate passers, especially on the deep ball with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. One player, because we all know Sutton and Judy are going to be good. One player I want to see how well he does with Russell is KJ Hamler. I think if he comes back healthy words. I think he could be a good steal like towards the bottom of the drafts. He has that deep speed that Russell has loved to have with. Not to say he's going to be like a Tyler Lockett type player, because I don't think he will be, but he definitely has that kind of skill set that Russell loves. So he'll probably throw a couple of deep balls, a game to him. So it would be a cool, wide receiver like 5 or whatever to throw in the back of your roster and hope he pans out. And if someone gets hurt in front of him, that'd be a great deal.
Yeah. Bless you.
Thank you.
We got people sneezing over here. You're allergic to that's a bad sign. That's like bad juju. Don't draft But I agree with that. I think Hamler's interesting. I think there is like a point to be made about this crowded room, because Russell Wilson is a guy that when he is protected well, I mean, he can just use every weapon that is at his disposal. So that makes me maybe a little nervous to find someone that he connects with very well. I mean, yeah, probably, especially he'll have that time, because he struggled a little bit last year, like getting the ball to his guys. I think that definitely has that upside wide receiver too that we did see in Lockett, though.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it'll be fun to see, how well all these guys do with the clear upgrade at QB.
Yeah, I agree.
And finally, we have the tight end, Albert. Oh, I'm not going to try to do his last name.
Right now.
Alberto. I think Alberto is probably a more complete tight end than Noah Fant. I think Noah Fant was probably a better receiving tight end, but Alberto is probably all around better. I think he gets a big bump in value, but I don't know that it's as big a bump as people may want it to be, especially considering what we've seen from Hackett's offense in the past. The tight end hasn't been huge, but it'll be interesting. But Russell does love his tight end, so it'll be interesting to see how the dynamic works between what Russell wants and how Hackett's play calling goes.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in him. He feels very like, those guys every single year that everyone gets too excited about and then they get disappointed. Like he very much feels that way. I'm not going to label him that way. I'm not going to be making trades with him. But if he falls to me in drafts, I'm probably going to draft him. Will I reach for him? No. But again, I'm kind of interested. He played 8 games. He was tight end 26 in 8 games. I mean, Evan Ingram played every single game, was tight end 23. So there's something there. Everett finished tight end 8, so he was up there. So Russ did rely on him, but I don't know how much that is due to when he was out, and I'd have to compare it. But I'm interested in him for sure. I think he could possibly be a bigger part of this offense, or we could see this very nice mesh between everyone where everyone's getting nice targets. But I definitely have my eye on Alvaro. I think he's someone, he had all the skills too. He's massive too. Like freaking 6'6", like almost 300 pounds or something. And he runs like 4'4". Like the dude is massive. So I'd like to see him be able to showcase that athleticism. And Russ likes his tight ends, and you just haven't. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in, but I think he'll play a role.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to draft him where people are going to be drafting him at. I could think they're going to be drafting him a little higher than I would want to take him. But if he's around where I feel comfortable with, I have no problem, scooping him up and seeing.
Like, I'm going to let him fall to me in my home leagues.
Right, exactly.
Hopefully no one watches this.
Yes, exactly. All right, but there is a flip side to this trade.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks, in terms of fantasy. So right now, the Seattle offense would be led by Drew Lock. So do we?
Sorry. Oh my God. I feel so bad. Like, I love Drew Lock, and I have a lot of him. So, like, for me, this is cool because somehow I always end up having to play, like, Colt McCoy in, like, the championship. So, like, I'm down. I get down with this. Like, it's fine. I didn't mean to laugh, but my first bullet about him is LOL. So I'll let you finish your spiel, and then I'll get into my.
I mean, what? How do we feel about it? I mean, it's Drew Lock.
Like, again, like, this is what I hate. There are parts to the offseason that I hate, and it's like, this is where the theatrics come out. Like, again, they can still get another QB. No one is telling them Drew Lock is your starting QB, and he has to start for you the entire season. Now they have some draft capital. They don't. If I'm Seattle and I know that I stink at drafting, you know what I'm doing? I'm drafting Malik Willis. If I'm nervous that someone is going to try to draft him before me, cough the Panthers, I'm trading up for him. And then at least, no one can really knock you for trying to get a QB because your option is Drew Lock. Drew Lock is serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
I want the league to be okay. Like, I want to start the movement on, like, it's okay to be a good backup quarterback. Like, let's be cool with that.
Mm-hmm. I think that you're right. I think we have Seattle has to worry about someone trading into the 8th spot with the Falcons to get Willis now because it's pretty obvious that Seattle needs a quarterback. So I'd be looking at that. I don't know exactly who would trade up to that spot. Exactly.
Well, we would let them.
Yeah. I mean, you guys already have 2 picks in front of them, so you don't have to worry about it.
I mean, well, I'm saying like they could trade with the Giants. I'm over excited. Like they could come get our pick.
Yeah, I mean, probably like Washington is the most realistic trade up scenario. But I think that if they do draft Willis, or even if they draft Coral, I think that Drew Lock is basically insurance in case they can't get that done. That way they have, a guy that at least has played before, so they can, it's not going to be a successful year. Everyone in Seattle now knows that. I mean, let's be honest. So if the plan is to just, clear the cap sheets, rebuild, and get a good pick in 2023, then you try out Drew Lock out there and, cool, we're going to draft these young guys and have them develop.
I mean, again, like, even looking at the trade and how it's structured, right? Like, Drew Lock is not part of the Russell aspect. Like, it's like it is, but it's not. Like, you were given the picks so that there's an option there to find an actual replacement. Whereas, like, this is a Band-Aid and a backup, in my opinion. Like, maybe Drew Lock will surprise some of us. He might, and I believe that. But again, like, and it's funny. I was on a show the other day, and we talked about this. Like, if you're not the guy now, if you're not the guy the next year, if you're not the guy the next, like, if you're not the guy, you're not going to be the guy. And I think that that's something that everyone needs to, like, like, you're either the guy or you're not the guy. Like, yes, there's some players that are able to maybe argue with that. But I think that Drew Lock, unfortunately, whether it was his fault or not his fault, at least for fantasy, like, is he a Band-Aid with, like, the weapons if they're able to pull off a draft? Maybe. Is Drew Lock, like, a great fantasy option? No.
He would be like, he is like that quintessential, like, third QB in Superflex, where, like, he's there, like, just in case of emergency when you have no other good options or something like that. Yeah. But I wouldn't trust him, to be a consistent fantasy producer whatsoever.
Right.
And now the players that are going to be thrown to from Drew Lock, what poor DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Gerald Everett. I don't know how far their value is going to fall, but it is going to fall hard because Russell Wilson made that offense work with that terrible offensive line because of his escapability. Drew Lock does not have that. So if Seattle once again goes without improving their offensive line, I may not even want to touch the Seattle receivers, honestly, because I know they're like awesome and they're really talented, but if you can't get them the ball, it doesn't matter. What do you think?
Yeah, again, like I was kind of saying earlier, both of these teams have a lot of weapons that I already was a little bit out of. Like Jerry Jeudy is someone that, I couldn't trade away. I couldn't get anyone to give me any type of value on him. So I kind of hung on to him. DK Metcalf, I'm one of, I traded DK Metcalf away at this time last year, and I got a king's ransom for him. I mean, in one league, I think I got 2 firsts and McLaurin. Like, I got a lot for this guy in several leagues. I saw this, they were downtrending. Seattle was downtrending. So, he finished wide receiver 14. Cool. Kudos to him. That's pretty impressive. 14 and a half points per game is not as exciting as I want for someone that's been getting drafted as a wide receiver 1. I think he's a low end number 2, like right now, which is interesting when you talk about Lockett. But if I'm Metcalf, I'm saying get me out. Like I would have said that if I was Metcalf, I would have said that at the end of the season. Now I am telling you to get me out. Like I don't want to be there. I mean, unless they bring in someone Lock is a downgrade. I don't even know. I try to be nice. I feel bad, but it's a downgrade, especially for fantasy. Even Russ was struggling. You think Lock is not going to struggle trying to get back out? Like it's almost like oh God, I feel bad.
Yeah, it is bad.
It's not pretty.
It's not. There's just no way to sugarcoat it, honestly. It's just bad.
Which is why I think that they still are going to go out and try to get someone else. This is not Drew Lock is not the answer. And they have enough time. It's not like this is happening. They have plenty of time. They have the draft capital now for once in their lives. If they want to go out and get someone, they can. They can even wait because I think, guys like Ritter, guys like, Strong, you can make an argument for it. I don't know if I love him in that system, but again, there are going to be options that could possibly fall. So we have to see how obviously it plays out. But Metcalf, I was low key out on, especially on Dynasty last year. This year, I had him in maybe one redraft league, and now it's like if he keeps falling, yes, I'm going to take him, but I'm not, miss me with this wide receiver 1 status as of now. But that could change given if they make a different move.
Yeah. I agree with everything you just said. It's a rough situation because of how name players they are, but the reality of the situation is you just have to do it. You have to down. The quarterback is not good. It isn't a good situation for them anymore. I expected DK to request a trade about 30 seconds after that report came out that Russell was traded. I'm surprised that he hasn't yet. There is no future for him in Seattle unless they get, a good quarterback.
Yeah, and maybe that's what DK needs. I think that he was very humbled by this season. I've seen interviews, and again, when I talk about Metcalf, it's not because I don't recognize his talent, because it's absolutely there. It's just that it's Seattle. It's not you, it's me type of thing. Seattle has things beyond Metcalf's talent. Metcalf chasing Buda Baker. There's a little bit more to it than just what's at surface level talent.
Exactly. So, but they're still talented. They're just going to free fall in drafts, honestly. They're going to fall so hard probably that they'll probably end up being values.
Probably.
At where they're going to be drafted. So, right. But, it'll be interesting to see where they go going forward.
Yes.
All right, well, that will do it for the breaking news edition of Every Day is Draft Day. I hope you enjoyed the show and all our breaking down of what's going on in Denver and Seattle following the amazing and crazy Russell Wilson trade
fun.
That never really happens in the NFL where QBs get traded like that, except it's happened a couple times last
Until now.
Until now, when it happens every year. But yeah, so stay tuned for Champions Round the rest of the week. We're going to be, going reviewing the combine. If there's any more breaking news, we're going to break it down for you. We're going to go on TikTok and yell about this for a long time. So, for Steffi Smalls, I'm Eagle Dan. Have a great day.